The new teaser trailer for Indigo Park Chapter 2 came out recently, and it did a good job in confirming our suspicions while also changing everything we know about Indigo Park. Not only were we introduced to new mascots, but new environments, given more context about Chapter 1, and... okay, so I feel like I need to explain the thumbnail before we get into it. In Molly Ahoy, we were introduced to 3 bird kids, Chip, Tiki and Pip, the ones that Molly tries to look after in the show, as well as their enemy, Captain Scurv. In the trailer, not only do we see Scurv's mascot, we're introduced to the idea that the kids also have mascots, and the horrifying idea that Molly had to abandon them to go hunt us down in Chapter 1, leaving them open to attack and, Did Scurv kill the kids? It's been on my mind ever since the trailer, and it's one of the main reasons I'm making this video, just because he had to have, right? Like, it just makes sense. And while that's definitely something we're gonna answer today, that's not the only question this trailer brings up. Was Molly really in the wrong in the first chapter? Is Finley the true villain of this chapter, or have we been misled? And will we learn what Rambly truly thinks about the mascots? Well, we're gonna be answering all those questions today. But before we do that, please do subscribe. It's free and you can always unsubscribe later. Subscribing is the best way to support my channel, as it allows me to make more videos and helps me reach more milestones. I really want to hit 400k soon, and we get closer and closer to that milestone each day. So if you could just check to see that you are subscribed, that would be great. Thank you, and back to the video. So, if you didn't see the new trailer, allow me to break it down for you. We start off with seeing a clip from Molly Ahoy, the TV show which featured Molly crashing into a pirate island and teaming up with Chip, Tiki and Pip as they try to rebuild her plane and battle against Scurv the Coyote. The show is abruptly interrupted by none other than Scurv talking about how Molly abandoned the kids when she heard Rambly start up Rambly's Railroad again, hoping to catch us on the ride. After we get a further look into Oceanic Odyssey, as well as some never seen before pirate sections and a brief look at Finley swimming away, we also see Scurv, a ripped up monster of a mascot that looks to be hunting us down. It ends with us waking up at the beginning of Oceanic Odyssey with Rambly there to guide us. Now, with everything that was said in the trailer, the first thing I want to talk about is what Scurv says about Molly. In the first chapter, we just assumed she was hunting us down because of the mistreatment that happened at the park. It would make sense that they would hate people and they would want to hurt us because of it. But Scurv gives us another reason here. The idea that she was looking after the 3 other mascots and only left their side because she thought there was an opportunity to hunt food for them, like a mother protecting her children. She wasn't hunting us down for fun, it was out of survival, not just for her, but for the 3 other mascots, which makes it all the more tragic that she ends up dying after venturing outside Oceanic Odyssey. She risked her life for nothing, and now not only are the birds gonna go hungry, they're also left unprotected from their known coyote enemy. It's at this point I feel we start to understand Molly more than we did in the first chapter, which brings me on to my next question. Is Finley actually the victim? Hear me out. We haven't seen anything that confirms Finley is going to be the one hunting us down in the game. Not in the first teaser for the game, and definitely not in the newest one. And I think there's a good reason why. Compared to the other mascots, Finley outranks them all in size. Not only that, he is the only mascot based on a mythical creature rather than a solid species. Hence, it's likely they were unsure of what was going to happen with the Finley mascot. There's a point to be made that the employees assumed, due to his big, terrifying nature, that he was going to be a lot more dangerous and harder to control. Therefore, they put in more measures to make sure that he couldn't fight back. I talk about this a lot more in my last theory on Indigo Park, but I think Finley was purposely blinded by the employees. His eyes don't look anything like the other mascots, and in the first trailer we see him as skittish and unaware. It's likely they did this so he wouldn't know what was going on and immediately kill the employees if they got too close. And what's worse is that Finley is nothing like that. When we were introduced to his character, he was introverted and preferred hiding away than being around other people. The red spots on his chest suggest that he was poked or prodded by something, perhaps by the employees, so that he'd go in the right direction for Oceanic Odyssey. Because if you've advertised that a mascot swims around with you on the adventure, but said mascot wants to hide away all the time, then that's not ideal, and they'd have to find a way to make sure that he goes in the right direction, especially if he was blinded. I truly believe that Finley suffered a lot more than we're led to believe, and even with the employees gone, I don't think Finley is in any less danger. In one of the images we saw before we even saw the new trailer, there was a visual of a tank with scratches on it. Now, my immediate thought was that it was Finley trying to break out, but then I looked again, and it became quite clear that the scratches came from the outside. At the time, I was wondering if it was Molly or Salem. It seems pretty likely now that it was Scurv, which adds to the idea that Scurv is going after the other mascots, and what Finley was put through, it's alarming to think that this tank is the only thing protecting him. If you want to hear more about what happened to Finley, I go into detail about it in my last video, so I really recommend checking it out. Okay, moving on to the question that I really wanted answered. Did Scurv eat the bird children? Now, luckily we have some evidence for both sides, so let's get into it. The characters we see in this chapter come from a kids show, and kids shows don't tend to go into darker themes. I mean, if you look at Jake and the Neverland Pirates, a show that Molly Ahoy clearly took some inspiration from, even they try to keep the themes lighter than the original source material to be a good influence to children. Which is also where we get this baffling image of a good pirate never steals someone else's stuff. Great work there. So I think it's safe to assume that Molly Ahoy never explored the idea of Scurv killing and eating the bird children, hence it wouldn't be a wired trait into Scurv's mascot. At least, not an intended one. You see, the mascots also hurt and attack people. While they do things based off their characters, they also do things based off their animal instincts. At this point you have to think, what would Scurv do, and what would a coyote do? Like, if a coyote were to find an abandoned nest, who's to stop them from eating the baby birds? But then to counter that, we don't know if the mascots need to eat to survive. I know that sounds like a dumb statement, but the evidence just doesn't seem to line up. The park has been shut down for years. At this point, they should have all died off, right? Surely there hasn't been enough mascots to satiate their hunger, especially not after 8 years. But then on the flip side, Scurv does describe Molly hunting us down as her sad little hunt to feed her chicks that backfired. So it does suggest that she is hunting us down for food. But then that brings into question, what have they been eating so far? Or who have they been eating so far? Were there enough mascots to satiate their hunger for 8 years? I don't know, maybe they'll reveal that in the Royal Wrangler's room there's actually a stocked up fridge of food that somehow didn't expire after 8 years. Better yet, they might be eating the bodies of the employees who hurt them. Honestly, I am completely fine with that. But even if the mascots do or don't have to eat, Scurv could still want to hurt them. And with Molly gone, there is nothing stopping him from doing so. All hope is not lost though. In fact, in the trailer, we can hear one of the birds asking for Molly right at the end. As well as that, we briefly see Chip running down the hallway in the trailer. It's hard to see and it only happens for a few frames, but it's still there and it still confirms that Chip is alive, which means the baby bird mascots could still be alive. Well, at least some of them. You see, in chapter 1, in between Molly and Finley's parts of the Rambly Railroad ride, we're greeted by a brief beach scene. 3 birds, 2 flying away, and 1 broken on the floor. We've already theorized before that this beach scene was a clear reference to Molly Ahoy. Could this be hinting that one of the kids will die? The parallels are hard to ignore, and considering what we know about the mascots and how Scurv was acting in the trailer, and the birds, I feel like we've been given a pretty solid theory on our hands. Now the question is, who's the unlucky bird? Chip, Tiki, or Pip? I'll let you guys discuss that in the comments. I'm gonna be honest, from this trailer I can see one of 2 things happening. Either Scurv's gonna hunt down us and the baby birds, or the birds are gonna finish off what Molly started by hunting us down. That being said, Scurv did say what brought Molly to the front of the park was the sound of a digital rat, as Scurv put it, and I'm willing to believe that's specifically referring to Rambly. Molly hears Rambly's voice and immediately goes to check it out. But Scurv referring to Rambly as a digital rat is peculiar. While this could just be a misunderstanding of what a raccoon is, it could also be referring to a rat, as in someone who snitches or reports on someone else's behaviour and movements. Could it be that it was Rambly's job to keep an eye on the other mascots? But when we meet him, he's shut off from the rest of the park. When we come across Lloyd in the main theatre, he says he can't follow us inside. But Rambly clearly had access at some point, especially due to the cameras. So maybe the employees set it up so he used to keep an eye on the mascots, but when it became clear that it was too distressing for him given the mascots' treatment, instead of stopping what they were doing, the employees just limited Rambly's access to seeing his friends. It would even make sense that the mascots gathered in the water-based ride to keep away from Rambly. It was to keep away from the surveillance. Look, when it comes to Indigo Park, there is a big debate on whether Rambly is actually the villain. You even have the creator, Unique Geese, pushing the fact that Rambly is not evil, and I think it's important for us to remember that because it's going to get harder and harder to believe. To Rambly, these are his friends. Characters that have been poked and prodded and caged and shocked and essentially tortured into what they are today. And while he clearly still sees them as his friends, it doesn't explain his attitude towards them. If you think about it, Rambly was the one that killed Molly. He shut the door on her before she could attack. While his plan could have just been to shut her in, he doesn't seem remorseful for what he did. And this is someone we know is his close friend, unlike Lloyd. Why would he have no reaction to her death? Well, I think it's possible that Rambly thinks he can bring them back. It would explain his approach to Molly's death being denial rather than grief. It's likely that Rambly's plan to restore Indigo Park to its former glory could be prior to the mascot days, when his friends were no longer hurt and he could no longer feel left behind. But in order to do that, he'd have to get rid of the mascots first. And even then, there's no guarantee that they can actually be brought back. Is Rambly's plan truly just a desperate attempt to try and fix his past? To deny the fact that the animals who were hurt were actually his friends, and to one day reunite with them so he doesn't have to deal with the guilt? Well, that's a question for another day. So what do you guys think? Are we on to something here? Thank you guys so much for watching. These videos are always fun for me to make, so it's great to know that you guys enjoy them as well. Thank you to my members. Once again, your support for this channel is why I can continue to make videos, and I appreciate it so much. But if you can't be a member, that's okay. I'm thankful to everyone who subscribed. Thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!